Nestled at the edge of a lush green valley, the man's farm was a picturesque escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. Surrounded by towering trees that gently swayed in the breeze, the property stretched for miles, showcasing vibrant fields of corn and wheat that danced under the golden sun. The landscape was painted with splashes of color from wildflowers dotting the meadows and the occasional grazing livestock that added to the charm of this pastoral haven. The farmhouse itself was a quaint structure, built from weathered wood that told stories of years gone by. Its front porch, adorned with hanging flower pots, served as a cozy retreat where the man often spent his evenings watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of pink and orange. With an old rocking chair creaking softly beneath him, he found solace in the sounds of nature, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds returning to their nests, and the gentle babbling of a nearby stream. Life on the farm was simple yet fulfilling. He tended to a small herd of goats that provided milk and companionship, while chickens roamed freely, scratching at the dirt for grains. Each day began with a routine, rising early to milk the goats, collecting eggs from the henhouse, and checking on his thriving vegetable garden. The earth yielded plenty, rewarding his efforts with fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers that he would later share with neighbors or preserve for winter. Yet, amidst this tranquility, there was a profound sense of loneliness. The man had moved to the farm years ago seeking refuge from his past, a life filled with noise and chaos that left him yearning for peace. Out here, he found a rhythm that resonated with his soul. He cherished moments spent in quiet reflection, often pondering life's mysteries while gazing at the stars that twinkled overhead each night. It was during one of those peaceful evenings that everything changed. As twilight settled over the valley, casting long shadows across his fields, he first noticed an unusual rustling in the underbrush. Curious yet cautious, he ventured closer, unaware that this would mark the beginning of a heart-wrenching encounter that would alter his life forever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow over the fields, the man leaned back in his rocking chair, savoring the evening stillness. The rustling he had heard earlier lingered in his mind, curiosity tugging at him to investigate further. He decided to take a leisurely stroll toward the source of the noise, his heart pounding with anticipation. When he reached the edge of the woods bordering his farm, he felt an unfamiliar mixture of excitement and trepidation. Peering through the trees, he was met with an astonishing sight, a large bear, scratching at the ground, rummaging for food. Its dark fur glimmered in the fading light as it moved cautiously, seemingly unaware of his presence. The initial wonder quickly morphed into alarm as it became clear that this bear was not merely passing through but was desperately searching for sustenance. With instinctual wariness, he took a step back. Bears were naturally formidable creatures, they commanded respect in both their size and strength. Yet here was one that appeared gaunt and frail, a stark contrast to their usual robust image. Panic gripped him when he recognized that this bear had likely come to his farm not out of curiosity but rather from hunger. Each night that followed brought the same display, a silhouette against the dusk, scavenging near his porch or along the edges of his garden. The man would sit in his chair, heart heavy with both concern and empathy as he watched the bear venture closer day by day, clearly weakened by starvation. He found himself torn, fascinated by its presence yet troubled by its fate. His curiosity propelled him to observe its behavior more closely. Was it a mother searching for food to feed her cubs? Or perhaps an aging bear displaced by encroaching development? The situation ignited something within him. Beyond mere curiosity lay a sense of responsibility for this creature that now visited nightly. Determined to understand and help in any way possible, he began researching options on how to coexist with wildlife while safeguarding both himself and the bear. As darkness enveloped the valley each evening, fascination transformed into deep concern. This mysterious visitor held a truth that weighed heavily on his heart, a realization that would soon unfold in unimaginable ways. As the nights passed, the man's concern for the bear grew increasingly pronounced. He began to notice distinct signs of starvation that painted a chilling portrait of its plight. The bear, once majestic and powerful in his memory, now appeared emaciated. Its ribs protruded sharply beneath its coat, which had lost much of its luster and fullness. The once glossy fur now looked dull and matted, likely a result of malnutrition. Each time the man spotted the bear, it struggled to find footing on shaky legs, the weight of its hunger visibly taking a toll. The bear's behavior was equally alarming. Instead of confidently prowling through the underbrush as he should have, it moved slowly and cautiously, as if each step weighed heavily on its frail frame. The man watched with a heavy heart as it rummaged through his garden, desperately pawing at the ground in search of any scraps left behind. Its frantic digging left deep marks in the soil, a stark reminder of how dire its situation had become. With every visit, the man could see the bear's spirit waning. It would often pause mid-search, lifting its head to scan the surroundings with sunken eyes that reflected a haunting blend of desperation and vulnerability. The man felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. He could not simply turn away from this creature that had come to rely on him for sustenance. One particularly poignant moment struck him when he noticed the bear staring blankly at his porch, its gaze lingering on a basket filled with vegetables he had recently harvested. The thought crossed his mind that perhaps this bear had once been part of a family unit or held a place within its natural habitat, a stark contrast to its current struggle for survival alone. Determined to intervene yet aware of the risks involved with feeding wild animals, he wrestled with conflicting emotions, compassion battling with caution. Each night brought renewed resolve to help in whatever way possible while fearing that any misstep could lead to unintended consequences for both himself and the bear. In those silent moments beneath a starlit sky, he felt an unspoken bond forming, a connection forged not just from empathy but from an understanding that survival often meant facing overwhelming challenges alone in a world where nature could be both cruel and beautiful. Determined to help the bear without compromising its instinctual behaviors, the man began to devise a series of strategies to provide food. He knew that simply leaving out scraps would risk creating dependency, so he approached the situation with careful consideration. His first idea involved scattering leftover fruits and vegetables from his garden across a designated area at the edge of his property. This would ensure that the bear could feast at a safe distance without becoming accustomed to approaching the house directly. Armed with overripe tomatoes and squash that were less appealing to him, the man carefully placed the offerings on a makeshift platform formed by flat stones, hoping to attract the bear without attracting other unwanted wildlife. He watched during the following nights with a mix of hope and anxiety. To his relief, the bear soon discovered its free meal and indulged itself greedily. Despite its diminished strength, it seemed invigorated by the temporary reprieve from hunger. However, the man quickly realized that this method might not be sustainable. What if there were days when his garden did not yield enough surplus? In an attempt to create a more consistent food source, he visited a local feed store and acquired some bear-safe food, special pellets designed for wildlife rehabilitation. He set up a feeding station slightly deeper in the woods, away from frequent human activity, to minimize coaxing the bear into too close an interaction with people. He marked its location with small flags during daylight so he could easily locate it at night. Each evening, after ensuring the supplies were securely tucked away and protected from other animals, he quietly set out into the woods with his offerings. While this lifestyle closely aligned with his values of nurturing nature, he felt a surge of apprehension each time he left food. Would this effort lead to reliance on him? Or would it give the bear enough strength to fend for itself again? Despite those worries, he felt comforted by one key principle: helping as opposed to hindering. In those moments spent waiting for the bear's visits, he reflected on how survival was often shaped by acts of kindness that strike a balance between interference and natural autonomy. Over time, he hoped the bear would regain its strength and perhaps find a way back to living freely in the wilderness where it belonged. The bond he formed through these efforts instilled a sense of purpose in him. Each act of kindness reaffirmed not just his commitment to nature but also his journey of healing amidst newfound responsibilities. As the weeks rolled on, an unspoken connection began to flourish between the man and the bear. Each night, while the bear emerged from the shadows, it seemed to recognize the man's presence and approach with a blend of caution and curiosity. The first night the man sat quietly near the feeding station, the bear hesitated, sniffing the air as if testing the waters of their newfound relationship. It was a moment suspended in time, where two vastly different beings acknowledged each other's existence. He became attuned to the bear's routines, noticing how it would arrive under the cover of twilight, its silhouette contrasting against the dusky sky. With careful observation, he could see flickers of personality in its behavior. When it felt safe, the bear would perk up its ears and take confident strides toward the food, eyes brightening with hope. Yet, at any sudden sound or movement, it would freeze, embodying a creature that had learned to be wary of danger. One evening, as the man quietly observed from his vantage point about 15 feet away, he witnessed something remarkable. The bear, after devouring a few pellets and licking its paws clean, paused and looked directly in his direction. There was a softness in its gaze, a fleeting moment of trust that sent a shiver down his spine. It was as if they were sharing an understanding that transcended words. Both were survivors navigating a world fraught with challenges. He began to talk softly during those feeding sessions, reassuring the bear while sharing snippets about his life on the farm. To his surprise, he sensed a calming effect of his voice on the creature. It seemed to stay longer each time, lingering in between bites as if curious about him as much as he was about it. This silent exchange deepened their bond. The man felt less like a stranger and more like an ally. As days transitioned into weeks, he also recognized changes in the bear's demeanor. It appeared healthier and stronger each night, its coat regained some glossiness and fullness as it approached with renewed vigor. There was a tangible shift, marking not just an improvement in physical condition but also an emotional journey for both. Together, they shared moments of stillness beneath the stars. Each encounter was woven with threads of understanding and kinship. The man knew that while he could offer assistance, it was this bond, born out of compassion and mutual respect, that would ultimately shape their experiences. In witnessing the bear's gradual recovery, he found solace in knowing that this connection provided both creatures with hope amid their struggles, reminding him that kindness often creates unexpected alliances in nature's delicate tapestry. As his relationship with the bear deepened, the man recognized that his efforts to help could only go so far without understanding the broader context of wildlife in his area. Realizing that sustainable solutions were vital for both him and the bear, he set out on a quest for knowledge. Armed with determination and concern, he began researching local wildlife issues, particularly those related to bear behavior in human-dominated landscapes. His journey started in front of the glow of his computer screen, where he pored over articles, studies, and forums discussing bear behavior and conservation efforts. He learned about how habitat loss and urban encroachment were pushing bears closer to human settlements, leading to dangerous encounters and dependency on human food sources. This knowledge deepened his understanding of the challenges faced by wild animals struggling to adapt in changing environments. The man reached out to local wildlife agencies, eager to gather insights from professionals who dedicated their lives to studying and protecting these majestic creatures. He set up a meeting with a wildlife biologist who specialized in bear rehabilitation. During their discussion, he posed questions about the bear's needs, potential dangers of continued feeding, and strategies for encouraging natural foraging behaviors. The biologist emphasized the importance of observing the bear without direct interference. She advised against regular feeding that could lead to habituation, warning him about the risks associated with bears becoming too comfortable around humans. She suggested he consider ways to enrich its environment naturally, by planting native vegetation that yielded berries or nuts suitable for forage. Motivated by their conversation, the man returned home with fresh ideas. He began researching plants that would thrive on his farm while providing nourishment for local wildlife. Experimenting with a variety of seeds became an exciting new venture. Each sprout represented hope not just for the bear but also for a balanced relationship between nature and agriculture. As he worked to cultivate these plants, he maintained his nightly observations of the bear's behavior. With renewed purpose rooted in understanding, he felt empowered to create an environment where this creature could reclaim its natural instincts without reliance on human intervention while fostering a sense of coexistence on his land. Through this process of learning and adaptation, the man became not only a caretaker but also an advocate for wildlife conservation within his community. His experiences underscored how crucial it was to share knowledge about harmonious living among humans and wildlife, a message he hoped would resonate beyond his own farm as others recognized their roles in preserving nature's delicate balance. As the man delved deeper into his research on the bear's behavior and local wildlife issues, he uncovered alarming insights into the circumstances that had led this creature to his farm in search of food. Habitat loss, primarily due to urban development and changing land use, had dramatically impacted the bear's natural environment. Areas that once teemed with diverse flora and fauna had been reduced to fragmented patches, leaving bears with insufficient resources to thrive. He learned from studies that over the past few years, nearby forests had been selectively logged, removing vital food sources like berry bushes, acorns, and roots that bears relied on for sustenance. The growing human population encroaching into wild territories not only diminished the available natural forage but also instigated conflict between people and wildlife. Bears were becoming increasingly desperate as their habitats shrank, foraging farther from their homes became a necessity rather than a choice. During his discussions with the local wildlife biologist, she explained how a combination of drought conditions had further disadvantaged the region's wildlife. Fluctuating weather patterns meant fewer seasonal crops for both vegetation and animals. Food scarcity forced bears to abandon their traditional foraging grounds in search of nourishment, pushing them closer to human settlements, where they may stumble upon farms like his, a troubling consequence of environmental upheavals. This new understanding colored the man's perspective as he watched the bear in his garden each night. Behind its gaunt figure lay a testament to resilience against overwhelming odds. It was not merely an act of survival but a story born of nature's complexities colliding with human development. Recognizing that many animals were similarly affected gave the man a sense of urgency. He realized it wasn't just about one bear but about an entire ecosystem struggling under the strain of environmental changes. This growing knowledge spurred him to take action not only for his visitor but also for future generations of bears threatened by similar circumstances. As he began planting native species, aiming to restore elements of the bear's natural habitat around his property, he felt a renewed purpose take root within him. This endeavor would not only provide support for this bear but also signal a broader commitment to wildlife conservation. By enriching his landscape, he hoped to create a sanctuary that could ease the struggles faced by this bear and others like it, fostering harmony between nature and human existence while highlighting the responsibility that came with living so closely to the wild. As the seasons changed and the bear grew stronger, the man found himself at a critical crossroads. His heart swelled with pride and relief as he watched the bear regain its vitality, but a looming question gnawed at him: should he intervene more directly or allow nature to dictate its course? Each night, as the bear feasted near the feeding station he had created, he was filled with conflicting emotions. While part of him yearned to continue supporting the bear and ensuring it thrived, another part worried about creating a dependency or disrupting its instinctual behaviors. He had learned from the wildlife biologist that fostering reliance on human-provided food could have devastating effects in the long run, especially if the bear became too accustomed to human presence. The balance was delicate. Nurturing this animal could help it survive, but would it ultimately hinder its ability to live freely in the wild? One evening, under a star-studded sky, he found himself watching the bear forage confidently among the bushes he had planted. The bear seemed to embody resilience, eagerly digging for roots and sniffing for berries as if rediscovering a world it thought it had lost. That moment stirred something deep within him, a realization that survival meant navigating trials on its own terms. This pivotal moment forced him to confront his feelings about intervention. Could he step back and let nature take its course, allowing the bear to rely on its natural instincts? Or should he continue his support to ensure it had enough strength to face future challenges? With each approach of the bear, each tentative glance towards him, the bond they shared felt more profound yet more complex. It was not just about saving one animal. It represented a broader struggle between humanity's role in nature and the need for wild creatures to remain connected to their instincts. As days turned to weeks, this internal battle weighed heavily on him. He imagined what would happen if he ceased providing food altogether. Would the bear be able to adapt again? Part of him wanted to shield it from hardship, while another part recognized that strength arises through challenges faced independently. Awash in these thoughts, he made an emotional decision. Rather than completely withdrawing support or continuing his feeding practices indefinitely, he would gradually reduce assistance. This approach would encourage independence while still affording the bear a safety net as it transitioned back into a life more attuned to its natural environment. With every action rooted in compassion and respect for this magnificent creature's journey, he felt a bittersweet resolve wash over him. It was a reminder that sometimes love means letting go, allowing nature's wisdom to guide creatures back into their rightful places within an ecosystem where they truly belonged. As news of the bear's plight spread through the small community, it sparked a wave of concern and action among the neighbors. The man's decision to help the bear resonated with many, prompting discussions about wildlife conservation and the challenges that come with living in close proximity to nature. A local conservation group quickly mobilized, organizing meetings to educate residents about bear behavior, habitat preservation, and the impacts of urban development on local wildlife. On one crisp Saturday morning, a group of volunteers gathered at the man's farm, ready to lend a hand. Armed with shovels and seeds, they set out to plant native vegetation that could provide food for not only the bear but also other wildlife in the area. Children and adults alike worked side by side, digging holes and planting berry bushes while sharing stories about their experiences with wildlife. This collective effort fostered a sense of camaraderie and purpose within the community, as everyone recognized the importance of preserving their shared environment. As people became more aware of the bear's situation, some neighbors began to take proactive measures on their own properties. They implemented wildlife-friendly practices, such as securing trash bins and using bear-proof fencing to minimize encounters. Others shared tips on how to create natural habitats in their backyards, encouraging local flora that would benefit not just bears but all forms of wildlife. The man also found support from local businesses, which began donating materials for creating wildlife corridors and safe pathways connecting fragmented habitats. These efforts sought to ensure that creatures like the bear could navigate between food sources without having to venture too close to human habitation. As they worked together, the community's response evolved into a broader movement advocating for sustainable practices and awareness of local wildlife issues. They began to hold workshops and events focused on educating children about respecting nature and understanding the role of each creature in the ecosystem. Through this collective dedication, the community learned that their actions could have a lasting impact on wildlife conservation. The man felt immense gratitude as he watched his neighbors rally around the cause, realizing that the bear had unintentionally united them in a common goal. This newfound awareness transformed not only how they approached wildlife interactions but also deepened their appreciation for the delicate balance between nature and human life. In witnessing this shift, he understood that their efforts would extend beyond just saving one bear. They were fostering a legacy of respect and responsibility toward all living beings in their shared environment. The bond created through these collective efforts underscored a powerful message: when communities come together for a common cause, they can enact meaningful change that benefits both people and wildlife for generations to come. As the seasons turned and the bear began to roam freely, the man found a profound sense of reflection settling over him. His journey with the bear had transformed not only his understanding of wildlife but also his perception of his place within the larger tapestry of nature. What had started as an encounter driven by concern evolved into a powerful narrative of compassion and coexistence that resonated through both his life and that of his community. He often recalled those first nights when he had watched the gaunt, desperate creature, a mere shadow against the backdrop of his serene farm. Now, witnessing the bear's transformation into a vibrant being, he realized how closely their lives intertwined. Each moment shared was not just about survival, it was about resilience, trust, and the boundless capacity for recovery when given a chance. Through this experience, he came to appreciate that wildlife struggles often mirror human challenges. The bear's plight was a stark reminder of how environmental changes, sometimes instigated by human actions, could influence countless lives in intricate ways. It ignited within him a desire to advocate for more sustainable practices, to educate others on how essential it is to respect and protect natural habitats. His connection to this one bear had deepened into a commitment to conservation efforts that extended far beyond the boundaries of his farm. Reflecting on the engagement and support from his neighbors illuminated yet another layer to this journey. The collective action taken, even in small ways, demonstrated that change begins at home. Together, they fostered understanding and respect for wildlife, creating not just an environment where animals could thrive but also cultivating a community spirit grounded in stewardship and responsibility toward nature. In moments of quiet contemplation beneath the stars, he recognized that these experiences were about so much more than aiding one bear, they were about nurturing empathy and interconnectedness across species and ecosystems. He understood now that coexistence with nature relies on acknowledgement and respect for all forms of life. As winter approached, leaving frost-kissed mornings in its wake, the man often stood on his porch watching the bear venture into its lush surroundings with renewed vigor. It symbolized hope, a testament to what can be achieved when compassion fuels action. Though parting was inevitable, knowing that he played a role in helping restore its independence filled him with peace. Ultimately, this journey left him with profound lessons. True coexistence stems from understanding both our limitations and our responsibilities as caretakers of this earth. And as such reflections settled into his heart like seeds waiting to sprout, he remained committed to fostering harmony with nature, not just for himself or the bear but for all living beings sharing this delicate world together.